At this point, it is 4 a.m. on Daytona Beach, Florida, and just terrifying.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times Good Stories podcast. My name is Joe Flanders. I hope you are having a simply divine week. I know I am. I'm really excited to share today's episode where I talk with Columbus comedian Amber Falter. I'd never met her before. I met her while I was in town visiting family a few weeks ago back in Ohio, and I found her just by searching Columbus comedians, and she was all over the place, and I can see why. She's really funny. In fact, Amber was just voted best comedian in Columbus by Columbus Alive magazine. So, yeah, she's the real deal. And she is talking about the fact that she grew up with a mother who was an addict. And it's a heavy subject matter, but what I really marvel and respect about Amber is that she's been able to process it all, and she definitely found the funny in all of this. It's a pretty crazy story, or stories, I should say. The crux of it is her talking about the last time she saw her mom, which was in Florida on the beach, and it's a pretty insane story. So I hope you enjoy it. I really did. Again, I just really respect the fact that, like so many other guests on the show, she kind of took something that was, hard and has sort of come out the other side and not only found the funny in it, but also found the positives in her situation, which is that she has a great relationship with her dad and her brothers. And, she's doing well. I'm sure there's a lot of sadness there at times, but overall, she's just come out the other side. And I had a really great time talking with her. Her family owns a meatpacking plant in Columbus, so we actually did this interview in the conference room of said meatpacking plant. If you enjoyed the episode, please give us that 5 stars. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. You can also email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. I've gotten a few emails since last week's episode, so I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me. I love hearing from you. And I'm going to be reading one story from a listener who had a truly awkward, embarrassing, and dare I say shitty sexual experience. So I'm going to read that after the episode. Lastly, you can go to badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page. We have a new patron. So thank you to Liam for joining the Patreon community and supporting me in this show. It means so much that, you're willing to throw a few bucks my way each month. So thank you, Liam. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. I hope you all do. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Amber Falter. I feel like we're filming like a deposition right now. Did an office here. Where were you on?
I feel like, some interrogation goes on in here for sure.
This is
meat
awesome.
And bacon.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the water.
Of course.
I've almost got the coffee jitters.
Hell yeah.
It's such a balance between awake and feeling good, and then just
I hate that feeling. And it's always I feel like as I'm getting older, it's when I take that second coffee.
Yeah.
I already had one, but I would love one. And then you can't fix your stomach after that. You really can't.
No.
You
just got to ride it out and just feel off balance all day. It's great. I'm not there, so I don't know why I brought my coffee in, but it blew me away. Oh, well.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll just drink more of this
Halfway
water.
at the end of this, I'll probably be stay
Then
later.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we should mention that we're filming this in a meat packing, not a plant. Is this the office of a meat packing?
Yes.
Plant?
This is the tiny interrogation murder office in front of the meatpacking plant where there are either I don't know, 55 plus year old people that were hired by my grandfather, just slinging meat and making sausages.
Wow.
And then the younger generation, more my friends, my older brother's friends, that now drive for us or work in the back as well.
Nice.
Big, creepy old slaughterhouse. So it's quite terrifying back there, but
So it's the family business.
yes.
Has
Yes.
it, how long? So it started with your grandfather?
Great
Great-grandfather.
grandfather.
Okay.
So he came from Germany, just I think learned how to be a butcher in like Arizona, and then
Sure.
why not? And then came all the way back to Columbus. Like back then, it was not easy to get over there. I do not know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so settled in Columbus, kind of here in German Village, and they've been making a bunch of meat since, and it's real spooky back there. I have to do my laundry back there.
Really?
And it's a giant barbed wire fence around the plant that we lock at night from like 6 to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'll just like, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't have a fucking key to it, to my own laundry.
Really?
Yeah. And I have to call like the creepy guys. No, they're not creepy dudes, but they're doing the night shift from 6 to 6, which is terrifying. And I'm like, hi, can you like throw over my laundry or can you let me back? I really need this shirt for this party. So I'm the worst, but it's a barbed wire fence. Like I was just like, why can't I have a key to my own laundry? But it's funny to me the like older gentlemen that will like have to wash their bloody meat clothes.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I feel real weird about throwing your panties over in the dryer. I'm like, just do it. I need those for work. So I feel bad for them, but I'm very grateful. They do a lot of my laundry, which is great.
Yeah, did they fold your delicates?
Yeah. No, I feel bad that they can't find my hamper, so they just put it in a garbage bag. Oh, they're angels. Yeah. Laundry angels looking out for me. It's nice. I feel like I've, had to do my own laundry for so long, Yeah.
Now you have butchers do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
I just have sausage slingers do it. Oh, man.
What's it like growing up with a family business like that? I know it's a broad question, but it's just, I mean, because you live here where it's happening.
Yes.
Was that the case growing up too?
No, I
Okay.
lived in the suburbs of Pickerington.
Okay.
So I lived out there, and we had a nice little tiny, like modest suburban home. And my dad just works such crazy hours still to this day. He's back there right now, like 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
But he would just come home. Like back then, we used to slaughter. So my dad was just covered in blood every day. And smelled like bacon, just like cured bacon. And I was like, Daddy. And I just like run into his bloody arms every day. Like, for all I know, he could have just been murdering people. But I was like, but you're such a good dad. Like, get over here. Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting. Like, I remember making it almost halfway through grade school. I was like, in probably second grade. And we're just at the dinner table. And I look at him and I go, hey, where do you go all day? It's like they asked me in school what my dad does, and I was like, he's just gone.
Yeah.
But he comes back at night, but he's gone during the day. I was like, I should ask my dad. I don't know your job.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, I bring home the bacon or some generic, boring dad
Oh,
thing.
okay. Glad we settled that.
Yeah. I was like, okay. So I didn't even really know it was a family business. I just thought,
Yeah.
I had some cool hot dogs and stuff growing up. I don't know.
Out of curiosity, are there rivalries amongst the meat packing community?
In a way, yes. So there's actually just across the way, there's another family meat company. It's the Therns, and they're actually amazing people. They're
Okay.
so great. They you can walk in, they have like a deli up front, and you can grab meats and go. But it is really funny. Like I was out like hungover at brunch recently, and one of the guys my age was like, "Hey, what's up? We're hungover too. What's up, meat princess?" And I'm like, "Ugh, ew. It doesn't." Don't say it that way. It's gross.
That should be how you introduce yourself when you're doing sets. The meat princess of Columbus.
Oh, my vegan friends will love me.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, no, so they kind of were, I mean, they've been alongside us for a while, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we have such crazy deep history that we're just like these old crazy, like we were here first, you know?
Sure.
So,
Well, I
don't know.
asked because I'm friends since high school with the Carfanias.
Yes.
So I didn't know if
okay.
there's any, like,
right.
I don't
My
know.
grandma would never take me to Bob Evans growing up. She was pissed about that. Apparently, my grandfather, so her husband, helped him, Bob Evan, I guess, right?
Mr. Evans, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Evans. He was like, he needed help with his sausage recipe. And apparently my grandfather helped him. And I would always like, they had big shiny pictures and commercials.
Yeah.
My grandma would never take me there. She's like, no, those motherfuckers. And I was like, oh, okay. So no, we can't go there. Okay. Very bitter old bitch. She's gone now. It's fine. She's probably in this room with us right now. Listening.
That'd be comforting.
Well, no, it's not. She's terrible.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, just generically racist and fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great.
Got all of her old jewelry. That bitch was loaded.
Oh.
Yeah, I love
So
her.
it has a happy ending.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool place.
Do you mind if I occasionally take a hit of my vape pen? And
Oh, God, no, dude. Get it. Hell yeah.
It's kind of douchey, but I've quit the cigarettes.
Yeah,
and
congrats.
so-
I heard that in your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm still, especially with all the caffeine in me right now.
Oh.
I need some nicotine.
Do it up, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. You look cooler already. No, I'm just
Okay, so you grew up in the meat business. Your dad sounds like a solid individual. From what you've told me, your mother was not.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Totally. But it's funny because growing up with an addict, she was an addict. And growing up with one is like, you're a kid. You
Yeah.
don't know. Like no one's sitting you down when you're 4 being like, listen, this is going to be hard.
Right.
It just very much, everyone tries to hide it from you and shelter you. And so my dad being gone and away at work so often was just nothing but time with my mom, who, in a way, like, she was sober for 5 years of my childhood. Which ones I couldn't tell you.
I was gonna.
But like with most addicts, you kind of you switch gears. If you're not drinking or using, you might just fill that gap with anything, like golf. Seriously, it's crazy.
Did she fill it with golf?
No, she filled it with birds. She started with, oh my God, birds. We had just had like loose parrots in our house. It's really weird time. She was like addicted to birds. But
Wow.
also like what I loved about it was being a kid and having like just like impulse issues. Like
Yeah.
I'd be like, I want candy. And
Yeah.
she'd be like, fuck yeah, let's go. Yeah, dude. Like, let's go get candy. So it was like a really fun, like for me, I was like, she's fucking dope, dude. Like,
Sure. I'm
yes.
gonna double check that these volumes are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Me, I'm not shouting and Okay, good. Very
So,
technical work
nice,
I do here.
Yes, nice Kermit sounds to check them out.
Hello. Yeah, that must be one of those things where, as a kid, you like you said, you don't think about it, and so she's just fun. And then, yeah, that must have been interesting when you were like you said 18, 19, that you kind of saw behind the kimono, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah.
How did that come about? Like, did you ask like your dad or somebody about it, or was it unprompted, or maybe we should backtrack. So what was it like growing up? I mean, I know you didn't really understand as a kid that she was an addict, maybe, but what was it like growing? I mean, what were her? I mean, I know you said she was kind of just fun from your perspective. So, like, what were some of the? I don't know if there's like a couple examples of like this is what it's like growing up with an addict that you know come to mind.
Totally. Again, like it was that really fun, like I could convince her to do like anything. Like she was just like, whatever you want to do. Like we were both very impulsive. I remember like she was pretty broke after my parents' divorce, but still living around. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to start shaving my legs because my friends had.
Sure, that's enough. Yeah.
And she was like, you know what? I'm your mother. I should be the one that buys you your first razor, not your dad. And I was like, yeah. She's like, but I don't have any money right now. And I was like, okay, tight. What do we? But in my mind, that just meant we had to go steal. But she didn't explain it that way to me. It was not stealing. It's not stealing. Yeah. And she dressed me up real cute, and she showed me more affection than ever on these days, and would like hold my hand and like talk to me in the store. So I remember we'd walked in to a Kmart. Mm-hmm. We just walked straight in, full confidence, and I'm like skipping around, and like my mom looks all nice and clean, and we walk in the back. She grabs a pair of $150 Harley Davidson boots, and we just walk straight to the customer service counter, and she's like, "Hey, I'd like to return these," and I'm just like, "Yeah, they didn't fit." And like she's like, "Yeah, that's right, they didn't fucking fit." And the woman's like, "Well, I don't have a receipt. I can only give you $120. She's like, that'll do. But we would do that in order to make to get money to like go buy shit that we wanted.
Yeah.
Whether it be like razors or whatever. But it was a lot of like late night runs and like sitting in the car. So there was like, and it was always like, you're so good at keeping secrets. Look at you. You're so good at keeping secrets. And like our whole thing was like, all right, and what are we going to say before you go home? Don't tell dad what we did. Oh my God, what's up, sister? Like it was this crazy, like it was so manipulative. And I felt like I had so much, I was like, we have the deepest connection ever. There was one night she picked me up from school. I hadn't eaten since lunch. I'm just like telling her I'm hungry like all night long. I was in 4th grade. And she's like, yeah, okay, but we got to go somewhere first. And she's like, I'll be right back. I'll be back in 30 minutes. And I was like, okay. She leaves me in this car in this parking lot. So I'm in the back seat, just like so tired, and like I feel like that was the hungriest I ever was. But it ends up being like it takes forever, and I'm like in this car for hours, and I'm like scared, and it's dark, and it's definitely like 2 a.m.
And where she went into the
apartment complex. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So she's like, okay, stay here, like be good.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, for sure, like you're the best. And
Don't tell Dad.
Yeah, don't tell Dad. Got it. And I'm so fucking hungry, and she's in there for hours, and I remember she was in there doing whatever drug that I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And she comes back outside, and I see her, and I'm so excited that like I push my face on the glass, like thank God you're back. I'm so bored and hungry and little, and like, where have you been? I'm scared. And she sees me, and I scare the shit out of her. Like to the point she forgot I was in the car, and she like screams and runs back inside. And then her and some like total crackhead come back out.
Sure.
And like this like very sweet crackhead like comes out and like opens the door. It's like, hey, hi, I'm whatever.
Crackhead Joe.
Crackhead Joe. And I heard you're hungry. And I was like, I'm so hungry. And she gave me this like what I call crackhead spaghetti. Me and Eminem really bonded back in the day. But I remember my mom, I'm like shaking. My mom's like feeding me crackhead spaghetti in her terrible apartment. It was just, it was crazy.
Wow.
So many stories.
I bet. I can only imagine.
So many that are also just repressed. They're just down there. Mm-hmm. My brothers will bring stuff up like, do you remember that? That was crazy when Mom did this thing. And I was like, what? No, I don't remember that one.
Nope, sorry.
Brain canceled it out.
Wow.
There was one other time that was just the smell alone makes me remember it. Mm-hmm. She like came to the house, my dad's house. Again, he had like full custody and wasn't really supposed to let us hang out with her. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't say no, and she was very persistent. And we very much wanted to see her. So she came to the house one day, was like banging on the door. She's like, yeah, you guys want to hang out? You guys want to go do something? And we're like, yeah, cool, sounds good. My dad, his only concern was us getting to school the next day. She was dating a guy named Mike who had like a motorcycle. Nice. And he was like a truck driver. Yeah. And he comes in later, but my mom picked us up. We run around, do stuff all day, and then we're driving back to her apartment. And she just starts talking about how bad she has to shit. She's like, I gotta shit. I gotta go. Oh, and she's like farting, and my brother and I are like, ew, stinky. Oh my God, stinky fart. Yeah. These were the farts of like somebody going through withdrawal.
Oh.
So I don't know if
that was a symptom.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it was super bad. I'm behind her. My brother's in the passenger seat. And I just remember like the smell is so bad that she ends up like screaming bloody murder. So then my brother and I are like, putting her hands on her head. We're like, no. And she's driving, and we're not at the apartment complex yet. And there's like, she lived in the back, and there's like road bumps on each one. God. Where she just farted and shit herself more and more and more. And we're just like, oh my God, it stinks. And we get to the parking spot, and she's full, like gripping onto the like steering wheel, just like letting it all out at this point. Cause it's just, Yeah. So she like I don't know how we get in. She like ends up we run out of the car. We run to the door, and she lets us in and then just leaves. And my brother and I were like freaked out. So we're like hiding behind this couch, where we ended up falling asleep. This is the part I don't remember that he had to tell me. Yeah. We ended up like just exhausted, falling asleep behind this couch. And my mom had left the apartment door open, just wide open, and just went somewhere. Sure. Like we had no idea. And so then her weird boyfriend like came by, saw that the door was like loose and open, came inside and apologized. He's like, come with me. Like, and he took us to school that day, like sweet angel. And he was like, you guys shouldn't be around your mother. And then he never dated her. That's the last time we saw him, but I don't think they dated anymore after that. But
Wow.
yeah. Ooh, yeah. Stinky. It was so stinky, dude.
I bet.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oof.
Fun stuff. But.
Yeah. Wow. First question. What is in crackhead spaghetti?
Oh, God.
That would qualify it as such. That's my big takeaway from this conversation.
You know what? I don't get it. I should call her for the recipe. I know where the apartment is. I could just sneak in.
Like, I just imagine like gummy bears and bacon or, just random ass shit.
I just remember it tasted so goddamn good, and I ate it cold, but I was just so hungry.
Yeah.
So hungry. It's like, oh my God. But cold spaghetti rules anyway, but crackhead spaghetti. Yeah.
I'm curious. When was the last time you saw her?
So the last time I saw her, I was 12, I believe.
Okay.
I was 12 years old. I think leaving 6th grade, going into 7th, that sounds right. And at this point, my parents had been divorced since 3rd grade.
Okay.
And she lived in town for a little bit. Like, my dad won the house, won full custody. But she lived in Pickerington and for like 2 different, maybe 3 different really creepy apartments, like just like nearby. And we would see her then. And that's kind of when she was definitely using again, being nuts.
What was she using?
She kind of all over the place. I think it got pretty bad. Definitely drinking again, of course, but probably more like heroin, some addiction with pills and stuff.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Yeah. So that's when the divorce happened. She lived in town. My dad just like loved her so much and tried so hard to like fulfill like our mother, just having her in our life kind of thing. And we asked and he didn't know how to say no. And so we would still see her. And then out of nowhere, like 2 years after the divorce, she just was nowhere to be found. She wasn't at her apartment. She hadn't called. So, I'm like 8, maybe 10 years old when she left. So like she just straight up abandoned everything. And we're at the dinner table with my dad, my poor dad, who's just like trying so hard anyway. And we're like, hey, has mom called? Did she call? And he's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, she's good. And we're like, can we call her? And he's like, no, she's busy. Oh, well, she's so busy. So we did that for like a year and a half, and we had like no idea.
Was that did that
sorry, I'm
freak
screaming.
you out? Oh, no, that's fine.
It was just this thing
weird.
where like there was no, like here's the deal. We didn't know. My dad didn't know, and like, what's his story? What he's at any point he's just gonna be lying if he doesn't tell us like the full truth. But explaining that to these kids, like, I felt so bad for him. So fast forward to, we just don't know. We haven't heard from her.
It must be eating away at him, like, not knowing how to tell you,
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, how he dealt with that.
Do you know, was there, like, a final straw that led to the divorce, or?
It was basically, again, this is stuff that, like, I kind of like had to, like, pry my dad on, and to my understanding, more of my like outside family just kept seeing this like pattern of like she was going off the rails again. She was being left alone with us, which is, I have crazy fun stories about being in like 2nd grade, stealing things with her. But we can get into that later.
Really? Yeah.
So my dad kind of got cornered, and everyone was like, "You got to do the right thing." And the right thing was, getting her away. Like it was everything we were doing, or he was probably doing, was more enabling her. And he has to work so hard to support all of us, and not being able to be there and monitor what she's actually doing.
Sure.
And her having like, almost nothing but time to manipulate me and my brothers to like fill our heads with these lies. And so like at one point, I know like my favorite game growing up was my dad would leave for work, and I'd have the day with my mom, and she'd say, okay, we got to find where he hid my keys, because she'd want to like get out. Like my dad would hide her car keys just to be like, please God, stay home and take care of these goddamn kids.
Sure.
But I was like, oh my God, okay, like I know all of his spots, like we got this. We're going to get like candy, like I can't wait. And she's like, yeah, if you can find these keys, like we'll go to Build-A-Bear. And I'd be like, I'm on it. We gotta go. So it was like that was our relationship, and like stealing and like lying and all that. But so yeah, it got to, I think we just kind of like lived in limbo. And like I remember even being like 11 years old, and my brothers and I being like, she could probably just be dead, right? Like, you can't call us if you're dead. And my dad's like, yeah, good one. Yeah, okay. Maybe she is fucking dead. So We do this for whatever amount of time, and we just kind of accept like maybe we won't hear from her. But then one day my dad got a phone call. So about almost 2 years later, I think, got a phone call, and she sounds great, and she's apologetic, and she's like, Bob, I'm so sorry. I'm in Florida. I'm sober. I'm with this great guy. Oh, excuse me. I feel like I'm going to burp.
Oh, yeah.
Right into the mic. We'll see.
Let it go. We'll see what happens. The anticipation. Is it going to happen? Is there going to be a burp?
We'll know soon.
I don't know.
It's going to smell like avocado and eggs. Ugh.
Nice.
Gross. But yeah, like, so to hear from her after not, and probably like, again, like I'm just kind of speaking on his behalf. He's such a quiet, like humble dude.
Yeah.
Like I imagine that finally hearing from her was huge. And for her to say, to acknowledge like, hey, I had to be alone. I'm so sorry. I needed some time. I'm great. I need to see my kids. Like I have to. And he was like, yeah, okay, fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So this was like this crazy thing. My dad had a girlfriend at the time. She brought her like little son who must have been 6, maybe 7 years old with us.
Okay.
And my dad, we get off the bus, same thing. Like, hey, have you heard from mom? And he's like, yeah, I did. And we're going to go. We're going to go see her. So she's living in Daytona Beach, Florida, with her new boyfriend, apparently sober. And we're like, cool. So in this,
excited?
Like, I was freaking hyped, dude. So like every holiday, like in that, that age, you're like, oh, it's Mother's Day, make your mom a thing.
Right.
Oh, it's your mom's birthday, make your mom a thing. It's Christmas, it's Halloween, it's Easter. So I had a box of like just things, like gifts and candles and stuff I knew she liked. And my dad was like, listen, we're going for a couple days. You just need to bring clothes. And I was like, I'm just bringing this. And he's like, oh, God damn it. So my only carry-on was like these gifts that I was like, no, she's going to love these.
Had they been accumulating? Like, since she'd been gone? That's really sweet.
Right. So I'm just like on my stupid, I think the first time I was on a plane and in my lap is just all these things. I was like, my mom is going to love this shit. Like she's going to eat this up. So we fly down there, and the deal was my dad was like, you can see your kids, but I will be right there.
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we get a hotel on the beach. So my dad has a hotel on the beach with his girlfriend and weird kid. Kid kind of sucked. Oh, my God. Spoiled little shit. And then there was one hotel in between us and then my mom's hotel.
Okay.
So we arrive, we settle in. My brothers and I are just like, yeah, so freaking hyped, right?
Yeah, I bet.
So it's this really interesting moment where, like, I remember the excitement and like the adrenaline, like true fucking like, and we got there like quite early in the day, probably 10 or 11 a.m. And my dad and his girlfriend are walking us down the street. We walk up to her hotel room, and I have this box of shit, and I'm just like, fucking. And she opens the door, and I just remember being like, I'm 12 years old and I'm looking at her and I'm like, I'm literally not recognizing who she is. Like she had aged so rapidly. Like she looked like she was 58, maybe 60.
Wow.
And she was absolutely like her like late 40s, I think.
Okay.
So it was just, upon seeing her, I was like, well, that's not her. Mm-hmm. So she used to have like long brown hair and she was like, tan as shit, just like almost like so tan, and she had like terrible like, wrinkles and like big poofy like blonde hair. She just looked like a mess. Like, but I was like, well, that's my mom. I still gotta love her. And so I had this box of this stuff, and I hand it to her, and like I just remember being like, why aren't you crying? Like we're just like kind of staring at her like so, and like there was no immediate like hug. She's like, oh, what's up? Let's go to the beach. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So like even upon arrival, just like looking at her, I was like, that's not you. That's so whatever. Like
why had she aged so much?
Probably just like the amount of like using and like all that. Like even growing up, I missed this. I didn't mention this earlier. She smoked, while not drinking, she smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Whew. So she bought them by the carton. Yeah. So I remember thinking like packs of cigarettes, I called little cartons. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's so cute. Child size. And my mom's like, yeah, child size. But I got very good at packing cigarettes and rolling cigarettes at a very young age. Oh, wow. For her. I was like a cigarette queen. So my dad kind of does this thing where he's like, all right, well, it's broad daylight. We are right next door. Like, please have full communication with us. And here they are.
Right.
And this is weird.
Have fun at the
And
beach.
she's like, yeah, I got this. And we're just like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be fun. So we decided to put on our bathing suits and we're like, let's go down to the beach and kick it. So I'd never seen my mom drink before. I'd never seen her drink.
Really?
I'd seen her fucked up on many things, but I'd never actually seen her take a drink of a thing. And
you think, was that like a conscious choice on her part?
It-
I'm kind of surprised.
yeah, because I feel like maybe, yeah, I don't. That's where I'm
She
like,
didn't want to see you, or she didn't want you to see her drinking. I don't know.
yeah. So even like with her 5 years of sobriety, I would go to like AA meetings with her all the time.
Oh, okay.
She'd have like huge card parties at the house where everyone's thick cloud of smoke, and I'm like crawling around like because I loved Rugrats and I like wanted to be Tommy Pickles. I was like crawling around like drinking out of people's like Coca-Colas and
Sure.
shit, and there's just like a cloud of smoke. But yeah, like she was like hard in AA, like in whatever. So I think before the divorce, like once she was using again or whatever, it was more of a thing that she was like not doing it at the house, like
see.
yeah. So probably pretty good at hiding it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they are.
So yeah, it's this beautiful sunny day. We're on the beach, and I'm just like, but my mom still hasn't like cried.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I've missed you. Like, what do you? And she like, again, like she was so gorgeous and like crazy, and to see this like creepy old like wrinkly blonde version of my mom, like just like she had like a beer gut, and like so she brought down this cooler to the beach, and she's just like cracking beers open, and I was like, okay, weird. So we're like splashing around and having a good day, but like it was even clear to me. I was like, oh, like she's getting drunk, like okay. And I was like, I know that she's like clean or better now, but what does that mean? I still didn't even know. It was interesting. So a lot of that day, like I was just like in awe. Honestly, there's that burp.
Yeah, there it
excuse
is.
me. It was quiet
Well
and
done.
gross. So yeah, we spent this whole day together, and like I don't remember like the entire day, like that night really, like what we ended up doing. I think I was just so like stressed out that like it was still like such a shock.
Yeah.
And I still in this weird way, I felt like maybe she was dead and this was just somebody else.
Yeah.
And I was like, that can't, it doesn't feel like you. Like, of course, it was really scary. And so anyway, we end up at her hotel, and I'm like really tired and exhausted, and I'm laying in this bed. So it was this hotel that was separated with like one like door or like a little like pulley kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like two wooden door. I don't know, French doors. I
Could
don't
be.
know.
Sounds
I don't know my
exotic.
door language. I'm like laying there in this bed, and then like I just remember dozing off, and like the creepy little TV. I just hear like yelling, and my brother and my mom are fighting. My oldest brother and her are just screaming at each other.
Okay.
And that just immediately took me back to like bad times of growing up, and I was like, oh my god, like no, like this is like our time to be better with her. Like she's back, like. And I was mad at my brother at first in my head, and I'm just listening to this argument, and I'm like, oh fuck, like. No, like, why is he started this? He probably just started this shit with mom, with creepy version of mom, like whatever, the nightmare version of her. And so then my second brother like runs out of that room, and I just remember the little TV, like it was staticky, some bad antenna, and it was like the only light in the room. And he's like, hey, like he's on the ground, he's grabbing my arm, and he's very stressed out, and he's like, we gotta go. He's like, we gotta go right now, okay? And I was like, no. I'm going to stay with mom. You guys can go, but she's been pretty cool. I don't know. I'm like, you guys just want to leave me here? And he's like, you're not staying. We have to go. And he's just like on the ground, like packing my bag. And then as this happens, the door gets like kicked open. Like my brother like almost falls back through it. She essentially like pushes him kind of like through the door to my memory. I mean, it might have been a different thing. So I have my one brother next to me packing my bag. And then my mom pushes through. And it's just like this crazy scary moment where she's just like literally in rage, and she's in like a pair of silky panties and a tank top, and that's it. And she's like crying and she's screaming, and so she like dives on top of me, and she's like pinning me to the bed, and it was the most horrific thing ever. She's just like crying onto my face, and she's like, you can't leave mommy loves you, like stay here with mommy. And I was like,
some mommy dearest shit.
It was this moment where at first I was like nodding my head. I was like, yeah. And my brothers are pulling her off of me. And I'm literally like tasting her tears. And I'm just like, I'll stay. And then it like started getting so scary. I was like, I'm actually just, you know what? Can we just have a rain check? It was like breaking up with like a boyfriend who's like, no, please, you can't leave me. And I was like,
I'll change.
okay, maybe we can figure it out. And then he like says one dickhead thing, or you're just like, actually, can we sleep on this, Derek? Because like you're kind of scaring me right now. And like, please put down that knife. Like it was so intense. And my brother's like, get her off of me. And so my oldest brother tells us like, go back to dad's. At this point, it is 4 a.m. on Daytona Beach, Florida. And just terrifying. So we get out into the hallway of the hotel, and the door closes behind her. My oldest brother is like basically yelling at her and all this, and she's in her underwear with no bra and a tank top, and like she's literally like beating, like fighting him almost. He's like 16 probably, and she ends up tackling my brother that's trying to get me out of there. And so we finally get away from her, and it's just this moment where I would just like turn around, and my brother's like, go. And then like he's just like wrestling my mom, and I was like, okay, well, tight. So that was the last time I saw her. And we run back to my dad's apartment, or the hotel. It's in the middle of the night. His girlfriend opens the door, and she's just like, Bob, the kids. And like my dad, like again, so quiet, like doesn't just lose his shit. I just hear him punch a wall, and then like get down to business. Hey, once you get comfortable, lay down. And we're like, okay, yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like we hope Jason's alive. He's wrestling mom right now. And so the whole thing was she locked herself out of the hotel room when she did that. And my brother just like had to run away from her and like trick her. And he went down to the lobby and was like, there's a crazy woman on floor 3. You might want to deal with it. Peace. And then my dad came, got her. I don't know what happened then. I don't know if they talked to her or if my dad even saw her one more time.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So then, we have we have the rest of the weekend together there. And it was this thing where it ended up being a really great trip because it was kind of this thing where my dad's trying his whole life to hide these things, shelter us, keep us from it. And at the end of the day, like you kind of can't.
Right.
And there comes a time where you got to like tell us what happened, or to your best of your ability, explain like what her issues were.
This is like the real life, a kid learning there's no Santa Claus.
Yes.
It's like, this is your mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was so, but it was like, we're wide awake at 4 a.m. We're not gonna fall asleep.
No.
And my oldest brother, he comes back and he's just like pacing around, and like, I know that growing up, like he was the oldest, so he kind of did understand. And
How much older was he than you?
5 years older.
5 years? Okay.
So there were moments where like he'd come home from school and she'd be inside being kind of weird or crazy, and he'd be like, hey, you guys want to like shoot the basketball for a little bit? Like I'm going to talk to mom. And so I feel really bad, and like I'm so grateful for like him and for him being so strong. But he ended up, it was so gorgeous because I love this weekend in a way. I like look back on it fondly. Like, oh, I'm so glad we went. I'm glad I got to see that.
Yeah.
I think I might have dealt with her addiction and our childhood trauma like differently if I didn't see her like for who she really was ever. Like
Right. So it's all just you being told. You may not believe it in the same way, or something like that.
Yeah. And in the back of my head, I would have still looked at her as this like fun fairy tale princess who like was my best friend growing up. But yeah, so my older brother, he takes me outside and we just walk for miles up the beach. And he's like, I'm again like 12. He's probably like 16. And he's just like super honest with me. And he tells me all he saw and everything he knew. And he's like, this is like what we've always avoided is this moment. And he's like, but hey, we made it. And he's like, and we're better for it. And like the sun's coming up, and I'm just like, well, I'm like looking at the pier with my brother, and I'm like crying, and I'm like, oh, it all makes so much sense. Like, okay, like everyone else had like a mom that like was there all the time, and I don't know. It was really, really awesome. And then like it was one of those things where my dad couldn't hide anything else, and we're just letting loose so much, and my dad works so hard and never really gets to that point.
Right.
And I just remember like there was a thunderstorm coming, and they're telling us to leave the hotel pool. My dad's like, fuck that, let's swim. There's just like pouring rain, and we're all like laughing, and it was just like, yeah, like fuck it, like this is dope. Like this is what we've always had and always will have.
Yeah.
And like I honestly feel very fortunate to have this situation. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, the mother-daughter relationship is so important. I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, my dad's pretty tight. I got cool brothers. A lot of women are really nice to me. Honestly, I feel like I have too many mothers. There's too many overbearing mother figures in my life.
Sure.
That I feel like, I didn't really miss out on much. But it was a crazy day. It was
sounds
insane.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must have really strengthened the bond between you and your brothers.
Yeah.
Or brothers? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So that's who you met today is Cy, and then
right,
Jason's in the back, and Yeah, but
Are you the youngest?
Yeah,
Or? Okay.
I'm the baby.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, and it must have just opened things up to just be able to casually, just like. Well, did your mom try and has she ever tried to get in touch since then?
Yes. Oh shit. Yeah. So that all happened, and I was like, all right. I was like, I have to. And it was a really. I don't know if I didn't really cope with it perfectly, maybe, but when things are that painful, you just shut them out.
Right.
So like, I'm going through like high school at this point, and I was just like, when people asked about my mom, I was like, oh, she's not around. And I never really said dead or alive, and it made a lot of people uncomfortable. It was really fun to say that to like cookie cutter households. When I came over to like my friend Sarah's house for like dinner, and her mom's like, "So, what's your mom like? What's she do?" I was like, drugs. I don't know, loose in Florida. I don't. That's as far as I know. And they just like, oh. So it was fun. So in high school, she'd reach out to me like. Months later, she like called the house, and I was just pissed at her. And that's when I started calling her by her first name. And I just was like, "Oh, what do you need, Donna?" She's like, and this was like this. The few times I talked to her was so interesting because she was moving around and like living like along the East Coast, and she grew up in West Virginia, I believe, or she at least that's where her mom lived. Where this gets deep. She ends up spending the end of her life, I believe, or at least one part of this journey. Oh, cool. The phone is ringing for the ghosts. Great, it stopped. So I remember she called me one time. She was like living somewhere in a trailer and just like would call me and talk to me about her fucking chickens her and her boyfriend had all the time. Okay. And I'd be like trying to write a paper at like 8 p.m. And I was like, you don't call me to check on me. I can tell that you're a distant addict. Like, stop fucking calling me. And I'd just be like bitter old bitch almost like at my little desk, like, I'm trying to write a paper, Donna. Don't call back, and like slam on the phone, and like she'd call back and get really shitty and like, drunker, and like leave voicemails all night long. And I'd be like, Dad, can we block her? And he's like, oh, okay, like we'll try. And it was like just on and off. She'd call, but she ended up spending a period of time living with her mother and her stepfather, and was so deep in her like addiction at this point that she started sleeping with her stepfather for drug money. Just like the big fuck you to your mom, like, yeah, oh my God. So she's tight. But yeah, she would call and stuff. And then I actually, when I was 15 years old, this is the last time I talked to her. She calls and I'm like, the power had just gone out, and I was writing a paper about the Titanic. Oh, real big paper. Sure. In like 10th grade. And I had just gotten into MySpace, and I just also got my lip pierced. Okay.
Oh boy.
I got my lip pierced.
Okay.
And she's
did
like,
you have the classic camera or photo in the mirror shot?
Oh, you already know. A lot of eyeliner back there. Definitely like more like shopped at PacSun because I was like a rich emo, but I wasn't rich. I just like wanted to look that way. It was terrible.
What were you listening to?
Oh
Panic
God,
at the Disco?
Yes, it was so bad. I would mow the lawn to Fall Out Boy and cry. Yeah. Oh God, so much Sum 41 and like Alkaline Trio. Like, are you even sad? Oh my God, yeah.
See, I went the more like I listened to a lot of Keen. Do you remember them?
No.
Oh God.
Well, tell me a song. Sing me a song.
Somewhere only we know. Oh. So why don't we go?
Yes.
Somewhere. Anyway, it was really just sad piano music.
I
went the angsty Garden State soundtrack route.
Oh, of course.
That's what I did.
No, I love it. I mean, that's better than what I was doing.
Debatable. Anyway, okay.
I would change what I was based on like the boy I had a crush on.
Nice.
You know,
that's always healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I really knew who I was in high school.
Well, nobody does. Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so she calls you. You just got into MySpace.
I just got into MySpace. I just the power went out back then when things didn't just automatically save like halfway through my Titanic paper, and I was pissed. And then I'm sulking around. The computer's restarting. The phone rings. I'm like, "What, Donna?" She's like, "Yeah, they're my chickens today." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, "I don't give a fuck." Honestly, I was like, "Stop calling me. These stories are terrible." I was like, "I honestly like I'm so pissed off right now."
Yeah.
And then she got really offended and defensive, and she said, "I just wanted to call you and let you know that I found your MySpace." And I was like, "Tight." And she said, and I had to be the one to tell you. I hate to be the one to tell you that you look like a whore with that lip ring. How many dicks do you suck? And I was just like, honestly, if you could never call me again, that'd be amazing. That'd be just great. And she didn't. She would call me back. I ended up hanging up on her, and I told her that, like, I remember that, like, the last thing I said to her was, "You've never been my mother, Donna," or some shit, and hung up. It's like super. But then, like, I wouldn't talk to her. My brothers would still talk to her sometime, and I'd get pissed at them, and I was like, how dare you? But the reason I got my little sad, angsty lip ring, not the reason, but my excuse, I guess, was I just had a friend who was murdered by her stepfather, and I was pretty bummed about it. And I tried to explain to her, I was like, well, like, we both were going to get lip rings together, and this is my sad way of coping. And she's like, but it was interesting. But so then fast forward when I was 19 years old, that's the last time I talked to her. I was working commercial cleanup, and I was like cleaning some room with like my partner at the time, my buddy, and I'm like wiping down the countertops. I get a phone call from my brother, and he literally is like, "Hey, just real quick, mom is dead." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for the warning, and I'll talk to you later." And he's like, "Okay, yeah, see ya." And so we hang up, and I'm just like staring at like this one countertop, wiping it and wiping it and wiping it. And my buddy walks over like, "Hey, you good? What's up? What was that about?" And I just turn towards him, like still wiping this counter with like tears streaming down my face. I'm like, "Oh, not much. My mom's dead." And he's like, you should get going, I think." And I was like, "Oh, we got a lot of rooms to clean, Chuck. Don't worry about it." And he's like, "I'm gonna." Yeah. So that was like, they just had to like drag me out to my car. They're like, "You should feel something." I was like, "No, okay, I'll think about it." But it was a very interesting moment, but it was a fun day.
Did you feel anything?
I did. It was sadly that my biggest feel was like relief. So I was dating this piece of shit, Brady. I'll say it. Oh, Brady.
Good.
Big talk.
Shout out to you, Brady.
You big fuckwad. Oh, man, I hate ya. I'm still bitter, of course. I am. So, he was dating me for almost 2 years. And I end up, I spend some time with my brothers that afternoon, call my dad and say, "What's up, love ya?" And then I go to his house. Like, I go to his, like, shitty apartment. And I'm getting phone calls from people I don't even remember meeting. Like these.
Like family?
So like extensions of my mom's family. And they're calling me. They're like, "I'm Trina. I'm your sister's mother's, like, blah, 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 twice removed, your mother's." And I'm like, okay. And then I'm just like, these people are calling me and telling me these stories, and they're telling me they love me. And I was just like so overwhelmed and really not understanding, like I was like, to me, she's been dead, like, but now she's dead. So what's that mean? And I'm getting these phone calls. So I'm sitting on this piece of shit's couch. Okay. He's playing video games on his laptop, not even like thinking to console me at all.
No.
And he comes over to me, and I'm just on the phone with some like West Virginian hillbilly who apparently I'm related to, and they're like crying, and they're so sorry. And I'm like, it's cool. And I'm just crying, and tears are just streaming down my face again, like not that like deep, like, but it was like my body was like, "Come on, we got to do something." And he comes over, he sits next to me on the couch, puts his hand on my thigh, puts his hand up my thigh, puts his hand up my shirt, and starts feeling me up. And I look at him, and I was like, "Hey, kind of dealing with something right now." I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, ugh, frustrated and pissed off. And he stands up, and he's like, "You never even fucking liked her." He's like, "Relax." And then, so I'm like, what the fuck I was like, what is wrong with this guy, right? So I ended up like, the phone calls stop, and I'm sitting there just dead inside, kind of mad at him, but like really couldn't do anything. And like, I'm just running through my head, like, what were her last moments like? Like, did she think of me? Like, what is this feeling like? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And like, what's it feel like to die? Like, oh my, like all these fucking questions. And it's this scary, scary, weird thing. And I'm just so in my own head that I never tell a lot of people this, but I feel like I should share it.
Yeah.
I always tell people about the feeling up thing and how appalled I was.
Yeah.
What I don't tell people is he ended up fucking me. He ended up fucking me while I just lay there crying. Just like, it wasn't forceful or anything.
Yeah.
It was just, I had nothing in me, and I just wanted him to stop yelling at me. And I'm just like laying there like, I wonder what it feels like to die. And I'm just like laying there getting fucked. And it was like the weirdest moment.
Wow.
Like that's how like, I was like, maybe I can feel something if I get a dick in me.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
but
just looking to feel anything.
Yeah, it was that guy sucks. But yeah, I ended up breaking up with him a couple months later.
That's good.
And he asked why. And I was like, you fucked me when my mom died. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more time.
I was crying while you were having sex with me.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was a fun day.
That says it all. Wow.
Yeah. I feel like none of this is fun to talk about. I'm so sorry.
Don't be.
Cool.
No.
Thank you.
More importantly, I mean, as time has gone on, like, do you know, like, is addiction running your mom's side of the family? Like, it's or, you know, like, are you able ever at times to, like, see just a really sad person who maybe wanted to be more but couldn't? And there's no wrong answer to this. Or, I don't know, I wonder if, like, your opinion of her ever fluctuates, or if, like, at times you'd be like, oh, I kind of, or if it's just pretty consistent, like,
With
I don't
how I
know.
feel about her?
Yeah.
Or just,
Yeah.
So I think addiction does run in the family.
Yeah.
My oldest brother, honestly, has struggled in his own ways.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing great now. But I mean, there's even some times where I'm like, God, I just drank for a week straight. But then I'm like, but I'm young and I work at a brewery and you're supposed to be drunk.
Right.
So I don't know. Like it does scare me sometimes. I feel like I haven't really used or tried other things. But yeah, like it was really interesting, you know, like as a young girl, I had to heal after she abandoned me initially.
Right.
And then I saw her for who she was like that last time. And then I was like, okay, well, she's changed and she can't go back. And I got okay with that. And then, you know, I hardened myself through high school and was like very tough and like very much said like, my mom's dead to me. And I was like proud of that in a way. Just like, again, just a weird coping mechanism.
Sure, makes sense.
And then once she died at 19, it took me like probably like just years of thinking back on it and like learning more from her friends and just getting these phone calls from these other women that like were in AA with her and like knew her story. And I just had no idea.
Yeah.
She had a very complicated childhood that I never knew about. I didn't know what she did. I also know that she wouldn't let her father hold me as a child. And
Okay, that's telling.
Yes. So it just as a young woman and like my own experiences, like, and then just being, I sit back now and I just feel so bad. I just feel so bad. And I feel bad for my father and like he did all he could, but like my mom, like it's just one of those stories where it doesn't work out, you know, where she was given opportunities, she tried, and like it maybe just wasn't enough. So, but I have a huge soft spot for like people like going through addiction or like even just like quitting smoking, like things like that are phenomenal. And those are just like things that maybe aren't healthy and like it's natural and you all want to like try your things. And I don't know, like sometimes I think about just like for her or for my own experience, like just not drinking for whatever amount of time, like maybe even like just be like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot, like for her in a way.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know, but I definitely like I feel for those people with addiction. It's stressful. So
Yeah. Well, that's the like I went to. They have narcotics, or no, not narcotics. I mean that is a thing, but Nicotine Anonymous.
yeah.
And I went to several meetings of that, and it's, you know, it's in the same. The one that I went to was in the same like back room of a coffee shop where they do narcotics and alcohol anonymous.
Yeah.
And you know, it's hard to even like to look at it in the same vein. You know, like I would compare myself to like, well, yeah, this isn't. I mean, it's affecting my health. But, you know, like my life hasn't changed because I'm smoking.
Right.
In the sense that if I'm doing heroin, you know, obviously,
Right.
You know, and so it took me a little while to like just accept the fact that it's like, well, you're still an addict. It just happens to be to something that you can get at 7-Eleven instead of from a creepy guy on the corner.
Right.
And even now I'm still like, you know, there's probably people who've been through heavier things than I have who are just like, yeah, whatever. But, you know, I just have to remember, I'm like, well, this is my situation. I got to work on it. And, you know, like, anyway.
No, it's also subjective and like it really just depends on like your personal goals and not comparing yourself to others in terms of like healing, I guess.
Yeah.
My stepbrother, I don't know his full extent of things, but he's a year older than me. He's been in and out of jail and just like he's done very extensive rehabs that just haven't worked.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a whole interesting thing where I'm like sympathizing more than ever with his mother, my stepmom. So yeah, I don't know.
But the relationship with you and your brothers is like great.
Yeah.
It's good.
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
That's
it's fun.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm glad that there was, you know, the takeaway from that weekend in Florida was that it did kind of create a bond, I guess. Of,
Oh,
we all been
absolutely.
through this together, and
I think
kind
we
of,
had a lot of like deep angst and like shit,
Sure.
obviously, in our own heads. And that, yeah, it was a very freeing weekend. It was really nice to see my dad be like, well, can't hide everything. And
Right.
that's what it is. So,
Yeah.
isn't she terrifying? Oh, look at that. Yeah. So,
When you initially said that, like your reaction was relief, I was curious, and now I think that totally makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah.
it just lifted this. You saw everything for what it was.
Yeah.
And nobody was hiding anything anymore.
I loved it.
And so yeah, that's wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Welcome home.
Thank
Briefly.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been good so far.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
yeah, this is by far the coolest location I've done a podcast in.
Yeah, we can totally walk around and look at meat hooks
Yeah.
and stuff too if you want
Great.
to. Yeah.
Let's see some meat hooks.
Hell yeah.
All right. Oh, where can people find you on social media and all that stuff?
Oh, just Amber Falter on Facebook, of course. And then Instagram. I do a lot for my Instagram stories.
Nice.
A lot of dog posts or whatever. And that's Amber Marie Falter on Instagram. But yeah,
Awesome.
check it out.
Yeah, and if you're in the Columbus area, I'm sure you can see Amber performing somewhere.
Yeah.
Often.
My monthly show is at the Daily Growler in German Village, and it's called the Growlin' Gremlin.
Cool.
And it's really fun. It's a really tiny room, and it's cute.
Great.
Hell yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Amber for coming on. Really just a great conversation. As promised, I'd like to read an email from one of the listeners of this fine program, and here it is. All right, so this email is from Benji, and boy, it's a doozy. So he says, when I was 16, my girlfriend and I at the time were finally ready to have sex. As one might expect of a 16-year-old, I was excited. Neither hell nor high water was going to stand between me and my final destination. I get ready for the night, trim everything up, showered extra well. Unfortunately, there was an issue. I have an intestinal disorder that sometimes causes my shit to become large and quite solid, and a quite solid wall inside me. I wasn't aware it was a treatable problem, and in fact, I just thought everyone had to deal with the equivalent of anal kidney stones. I bring this up because I had a mighty one that had been loaded into the gun for several days. All right, so you're backed up. That's always a good way to go into a sexual experience. So the plan is to have sex on her parents' bed when they were out of town. She was a little kinky, so she demanded we do it in her parents' bed. Okay, so things are going well. They're heating up. We're starting to get to it. And then she stuck her finger up my ass. Oh, God. My brain hits the panic switch, and every muscle in my body locks up tighter than a virgin. But it was too late. I take a massive, painful shit all over her parents' comforter. No, you aren't understanding. I mean large, huge, immense. Take your largest shit and multiply it by like 42, and you'll have an idea of what flew out of me. Oh my God. And Joe, by I mean flew, I don't mean like, meh, I pooped. I mean projectile. I mean hurricane force winds hitting an umbrella stand. And to do it in my condition, it comes out as large, dark, brown, smelly harpoon. Oh my God, how big was this shit? I know it hit her. I didn't see it, but she ran screaming, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, ooh. I've always imagined that due to her position, it hit her in the chin, or at least the tits. Oh, that's nice. I didn't go after her, so I just laid there, and then the smell hit me. It smelled like someone rolled a cat in shit and then threw it into a tire fire. I looked down at the foot of the bed and saw the biggest shit to date. And when I did, I noticed the blood. Oh my God, this is gross. Ugh. Because it was so big, it ripped my ass a little bit. There was a small pool of blood where my ass had been, the exact spot where I lost my virginity. I will treasure this memory for all time. Oh, good. So what I did with the shit, I picked it up with my hands, You picked it up with your hands? Oh my God. Went down to the downstairs bathroom and threw 1/3 of it away, fearing that it would clog the toilet. So I stood there holding 2/3 of the biggest shit of all time. I wish I had a picture of this. A picture is 1,000 words, I guess. I stuck toilet paper between my cheeks and got dressed and went home. My girlfriend and I didn't talk for a few days until she showed up at my house. We had a long talk about what happened, and by talk, I mean she broke up with me because I shit on her. Wow. Benji, that is one horrific, shitty tale. Thank you for sharing. I really do appreciate it. That is a perfect example of what this show is all about. That's all I've got for this week. I'm not going to top that. Feel free to please give 5 stars for the episode. Email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. And check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon. That's all I've got for now. So until next Wednesday, keep laughing.